what's going on, everybody? Golden Blue Dude back with another video just for you. So if you're a college football or a college basketball fan, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. That's all we do here every single day. Check out our Patreon page. We have a lot of stuff going on over there. We have a great website put together by Joey, 7 fantastic writers, but we are looking for more. And on top of the line merchandise, I actually buy stuff from the merchandise stores. Some good stuff over there. You can also support Golden Blue Dude through PayPal. Right now, all donations go towards getting us a P.O. box. That way you can send a mini helmet of your team that I can display forever in my background. But today we're going to talk about teams that either weren't in the top 25 or maybe briefly in the top 25 last year, and what their chances are of getting back into the top 25 this year. So no Alabama, no Ohio State, no Clemson, no top tier teams. I wasn't too sure about Conference USA and the MAC, so I left them out, but we'll start alphabetically, starting with the AAC. And this year I think UCF has a decent shot of getting ranked. They finished 9-4 last year, but what part of the season is their best shot? Well, let's look at their schedule. First, they get USC upstate, then they get a home game against Louisville. I do think Louisville will be better, but this is a home game, and UCF is just as good as Louisville, maybe a little bit better. After that, a road trip to FAU, and they get Georgia Tech at home, another ACC school. Then they get SMU at home, Temple at home, at East Carolina. That is going to be a tough road trip. Cincinnati at home, at Memphis, at Tulane, Navy, and at South Florida. So honestly, I think their best chances of getting ranked is all the way up till that road game at East Carolina. They actually could be undefeated going into that game, but after that they have at East Carolina, at Memphis, get Cincinnati at home. That's a tough stretch, but who knows, maybe going undefeated on the road against East Carolina, they'll have confidence, they'll be able to go out and take care of business and keep things rolling. But I think that's your best chance of getting ranked this year. Alright, let's move on to the ACC. We're just going to talk about the Coastal, because I don't think anybody besides Clemson, NC State, and Wake Forest really has a shot of getting ranked in the Atlantic. First up is Miami, the Hurricanes. They finished a disappointing 7-5, but they went out and got a new coach in Mario Cristobal, and he's been working the transfer portal pretty well. And Miami recruited at a decent level this year. It's going to come down to their schedule. They start off the season with Bethune-Cookman and Southern Miss at home, at Texas A&M. That's a tough road trip. Then Middle Tennessee, then North Carolina at home, at Virginia Tech. I mean, that is a tough road trip, but I think Virginia Tech will be down this year. Duke, at Virginia, that could be tricky. Florida State, at Georgia Tech, at Clemson, and Pitt. Man, that is a tough stretch to end the year. So I'm guessing their best chances of getting ranked, I'm going to say they take a loss at Texas A&M. But if they can beat Virginia Tech on the road, they could go into that road trip at Virginia 6-1. And I think for a brand like Miami, I think that's good enough to get ranked. Now, what happens after that, I'm not sure. I do think Miami has a chance of winning the Coastal, but that's a tough stretch to end the year. Staying in the Coastal of the ACC, I'm going to talk about Virginia. Last year, they finished 6-7. I do think Virginia takes a step forward this year. Let's look at their schedule, see if they have a chance of getting ranked. They start off the season with a home game against Richmond, at Illinois. Do not underestimate Illinois. They've beaten bigger teams than Virginia at home. Then Old Dominion, at Syracuse. That's a tough building right there. At Duke, Louisville, at Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida, North Carolina, Pitt, Coastal Carolina, and at Virginia Tech. This is a tough schedule, I'm not going to lie. But if they can somehow go on the road and beat Illinois and Syracuse, Virginia could have a pretty good record going into that last 5-game stretch. So I'm going to say all the way up to that Miami game, probably their best chances of getting ranked. Now, if they can beat Miami, North Carolina, and Pitt at home, that's another chance right there. So there's actually 2 chances for them. So Virginia might get 2 shots at getting ranked this year. All right, now on over to the Big 12. First, we'll start off with Kansas State. They finished 8-5. I do think they were briefly ranked last year, maybe even contend for the Big 12 championship. Let's look at their schedule. They get South Dakota at home, Missouri at home. That is a home game. It's a winnable game, and it would definitely help with their resume as far as getting in the top 25. Then they get Tulane, at Oklahoma. Yes, that's a road game, and it is Oklahoma, but Kansas State has had Oklahoma's number, so that could be a win. Then they get Texas Tech. Then they get that dreaded trip to Ames, Iowa. Always a tough place to win right there. At TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas, at Baylor, at West Virginia, and then they finish off the season with a home game against Kansas. I think there's a pretty good stretch right there at the beginning, right up until that road trip to Iowa State. If they can pull off the upset on the road to Oklahoma, which we know Kansas State fully capable, Oklahoma in a big-time transition year this year, and Kansas State has had their number, they could be 5-0 going into that road trip to Ames, Iowa. And yes, that would be enough to get ranked. Even if they did drop that game at Iowa State, get at TCU, Oklahoma State, and Texas, if they could win those 3, they would stay ranked and probably in the upper tier. Then 2 tough road trips at Baylor, at West Virginia. So it'll come down to that first stretch, and then if they can beat Oklahoma State at home, they could could stay ranked and actually get into the top 15, top 10. Next up on the docket, West Virginia. Does West Virginia have a chance to get ranked this year? I think they do, but it might be a small window. Here's their schedule. At Pitt, Kansas, Towson, at Virginia Tech. So the key here is to split those first 2 road games, at Pitt, at Virginia Tech. It's okay if you lose one, but you need to win one as well. Then they get at Texas. Very, very winnable game. I do think West Virginia actually pulls that off. Then here's the key game, Baylor at home. If they can pull off that win, and it is at home, I think West Virginia gets ranked right there. They get a road test at Texas Tech, TCU, at Ames, and Iowa State. That's probably going to be another loss right there. Then Oklahoma at home, Kansas State at home, at Oklahoma State. So there's a stretch right there as long as they can split the 2 road games, at Pitt, at Virginia Tech, and maybe one more loss before they go into the Iowa State game. That's 6-2 right there. That could be good enough to get ranked, and even if they did drop that road trip to Iowa State, if they come back home, beat Oklahoma, and beat Kansas State, they're probably ranked again. I don't expect them to go on the road to beat Oklahoma State. So there's a couple of stretches on their schedule that West Virginia does have the potential to get ranked, even if it is brief. Now we're going to jump on over to the Big Ten. First, the Big Ten East. I'm going to say Penn State. They went 7-6 last year. I love their coach, James Franklin. I think they'll take a massive step forward. They have the pieces there to contend in the Big Ten East. But how does their schedule look? Well, first, right off the bat, on the road to Purdue. That's tough. Then they get Ohio. Then they go back on the road to Auburn. My gosh, that's kind of ridiculous to start off the season. But after that, they get Central Michigan, Northwestern, at Michigan. That's a tough one right there. Minnesota, Ohio State at home, at Indiana, Maryland, at Rutgers, Michigan State. So if Penn State does have a chance of getting into the top 25, it would be after those first 2 road trips, and then if they can pull off the win at Michigan. So they could be 5-2 headed into that home game against Ohio State, pull off the upset there, beat Indiana on the road. Maybe they could get ranked right there, but that is a tall order right there. So they really need to do what West Virginia needs to do, and that's split those road trips at the beginning of the season. Now on over to the Big Ten West, Nebraska. I think you already knew I was going to say that. Nebraska finished 3-9 last year. Terrible record, but they lost pretty much by 1 possession in every single loss, except for Ohio State. They lost by 9. They're going to be a veteran team this year, and they picked up Thompson, the transfer from Texas, so that could help in the quarterback situation. Here's what their schedule looks like. Northwestern at home, North Dakota at home, Georgia Southern at home, Oklahoma at home. That is a very winnable game. I talked about Oklahoma being in a transition period. This is a rivalry, and Nebraska played Oklahoma tough last year, so that's a very winnable game. Then they get Indiana at home. There's your stretch right there. If you beat Oklahoma and win all those other games you're supposed to win, you're ranked. Easily 5-0 going on the road to Rutgers. That should be a win. That's 6-0. In a road trip to Purdue. Hey, even if you drop that, that's 6-1. You should stay ranked. Then you get Illinois, Minnesota at home, at Michigan, Wisconsin, and at Iowa. So even if you drop those road trips to at Purdue, at Michigan, at Iowa, you could still have a 9-3 season. But you still have to beat Wisconsin at home. I think Nebraska has a pretty good shot at getting ranked this year. I try to listen to everybody's comments and respond if you give me some reasons. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.